Hey there, have you ever found yourself just staring at a spreadsheet, packed with numbers, and wondering, how on earth do I make sense of all this? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to completely change how you think about charts, because it's not just about plotting data points. It's about telling a really powerful story with them. Yeah, we've all been there. You've got the data, you've got the facts, the figures, it's all there. But turning that raw info into something that actually gets a clear message across, that can feel like a massive hurdle. How do you make everyone else see the incredible insight that you're seeing in the numbers? At its heart, this definition is pretty simple, right? We're just turning numbers into a picture. But the real magic, the secret sauce, is making sure that picture tells a compelling story in a single glance without you having to say a word. And this, right here, is the big shift in thinking. So many of us start by just clicking through the different chart types. But the best data storytellers, they start by asking a much, much more important question. What is the one thing I need my audience to understand? What's the story I'm actually trying to tell? So, okay, how do we do that? How do we frame that narrative? Well, we start by understanding that every single chart type has a specific job. Think of them like specialized tools in a toolbox. And you wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood, right? To pick the right tool, you've got to know what you're trying to build. To keep things simple, we can group pretty much all the common charts into three basic story types. Are you trying to show how something changed over a period of time? Are you trying to compare a bunch of different things? Or are you trying to break down a single whole thing to see what it's made of? Let's dig into each one. First up, telling the story of time. This is your go-to when your key message is all about growth or decline, or maybe some wild fluctuations. The most important thing here is that your data is tied to a sequence. We're talking days, months, quarters, years. You get the idea. And for telling stories over time, the undisputed champion is the line chart. It's literally designed to connect the dots and show you that continuous flow. It makes trends, whether they're shooting up, dropping down, or just bouncing all over the place, pop right off the page. Just look at this. You instantly see the story of the week's potato consumption, don't you? You see that midweek peak, the little dip on Thursday, and then the climb back up for the weekend. Now, imagine trying to explain that by just reading out a list of numbers. It wouldn't have nearly the same impact. That is the power of a good line chart. It tells the story in a flash. All right, let's switch gears to our next story type, comparison. This is what you need when you're answering questions like, which one of these is bigger? Who had the highest sales? Or how do these different groups really stack up against each other? Now for comparison, we've got two main workhorses, column charts and bar charts. They look really similar, but here's a pro tip. They tell stories in slightly different ways. You'll want to use those vertical columns when you're comparing things over time, like sales month over month. Why? Because we naturally read time moving from left to right. It just feels intuitive. But you should use the horizontal bars when you're comparing distinct categories, like book genres, where the order doesn't really matter, and let's be honest, those longer labels are just way easier to read. And this chart illustrates that perfectly. What's the first thing your eyes jump to? The tallest bar, right? Mystery. You can effortlessly rank all the genres by sales, from the most popular to the least. That's a story of comparison, told clearly and super effectively. Our last fundamental story is all about composition. This is what you use when you want to show how all the individual parts add up to make a whole. It's a story about proportions, about percentages, and about who contributed what to the final result. And for this story, the classic tool is, of course, the pie chart. Now, a pie chart has one job, and one job only, to show the percent of total for one set of data. It's built to answer the question, what slice of the pie does each category get? Let's see it in action. Using that same book sales data, this pie chart tells a totally different story. It's not about which genre sold more in dollars anymore. It's about which genre took up the biggest share of the total sales in January. And once again, you can see that mystery is dominating, taking up the biggest slice of the pie. Okay, so we've got our three main story types down. Now, how do you actually put this into practice? Let's do a quick run-through of a simple three-step guide that will get you from spreadsheet to story in no time. It's really this simple. First, choose your data. Just select your categories and your numbers. And here's a key tip. Whatever you do, do not include the total row in your selection. That will throw your whole chart off. Step 2, select the best chart. This is where you ask that all-important question, am I showing change, comparison, or composition? And then you pick the tool for that job. And finally, step 3 is just about placement. You can pop the chart right next to your data or give it its own full-page sheet for a big presentation. So everything we've covered today, the line, the column, the pie, these are the absolute fundamentals. This is your bread and butter. But once you master these, you unlock the door to a whole new world of data storytelling. The moment you start thinking in terms of the story, you can begin to explore all these incredible, more advanced charts. You've got things like waterfall charts that can tell the story of how a number got from point A to point B, or sunverse charts that can tell a really complex story about a hierarchy. Each one is a tool for telling an even more specific, more nuanced story with your data. So the next time you open a spreadsheet, I want you to try something. Don't just see rows and columns of numbers. Look for the narrative that's hiding in there. Ask yourself, what story is my data waiting to tell? And then go choose the perfect chart to bring that story to life.